They search for hours, days, weeks, sifting through tons of gravel with only one goal: to find rubies. These precious stones of which dreams are made have caused them to leave their land, their mountain, their village, and their family. A living fantasy of blood red, which will make them rich or break them, shattering their final hopes. They are the willing slaves of a myth, that of the purest ruby of all, the Pigeon Blood Ruby, which, it is said, can only be found in the north of Burma, in Mogok. Mogok has been a forbidden city for 4 centuries, ever since the king of Burma, through an infamous treaty, took away from the princes of Shan an unfriendly valley covered with forest, infested with tigers, but glowing with rubies. Since that time, the city of teak houses has been closed, hidden from curious eyes, sheltered from temptation. Today, Mogok is forbidden to foreigners. Mogok, the world ruby capital, has even become a legend for the Burmese themselves, who are not allowed entry without a domestic visa. The Burmese are not free to circulate in their own country, or read opposition newspapers, or simply to express themselves. Mogok is a closed city in a closed country. To our knowledge, no Western television station has received authorization to transmit here for more than 30 years. The military, in power since 1988, has blocked off the village and transformed Mogok into a strongbox which they alone open for their own profit. Mogok and its 30,000 inhabitants live by and for rubies. His name is Hitar Kaur. He is 36 years old. For the past 3 months, he has been in charge of the 12 mines of Chai Pin. He controls the workforce, all of whom live together on a few square meters of space and struggle bitterly for the same dream.
They often get drunk and fight with each other. The pits are crowded and there's a lot of competition. They're forced to get along if they want to succeed. Usually, fights break out because someone hasn't pumped out the water in a pit, thus inundating other pits. Everyone has to work together to bring up the bayon, the sand containing the rubies. And lots of sand has to be brought up in order to find the jewels. If we don't find any, we don't make any money. It's in our interest, and the authorities too, that things work well. What we find, we share with the government. The small stones are sold here in Mogok, the better ones in Rangoon. We get a percentage on all sales. That's how we're paid, the workers and I.
It's 40 degrees Celsius in the shade. Hundreds of prospectors are wallowing in the mud. They must find the stones, and quickly too, before the monsoon's torrential rains wash everything away. Almost all of them are poor peasants from the neighboring mountains. All are from the Mogok district. Residents of the region are the only ones with the possibility of being granted a prospecting permit by the military. The former socialist regime in Burma had closed all the mines, nationalized the pits, and frozen all activity. The military junta that took over adopted another tactic. The land belongs to the state. The military auctions off concessions to prospectors who take over the exploitation of the mine as well as all expenses. The Burmese government favors the precious gem business, completely controls it, and takes a generous percentage. The military has thus created a very comfortable source of revenue. This system has given rise to hope among the poorest peasants, but getting rich is still a dream. The best way to survive is to reinvest the little they earn. This is what Mong Phon has done. He's 30 and has spent 12 years in the mines.
I managed to save and reinvest 200,000 kyats in the pits. I'm now digging in my third pit. I've invested and worked hard, only because I believe in destiny. Right now, there are good signs. I have positive dreams. I'm riding a horse, petting an elephant. I'm sure that now it's going to work out, and my dreams of buying a car and having my own house will come true.
Their dream is to build a house of concrete, like this one, ostentatious, gaudily painted, attesting to their success. Having a horse in Mogok is already a symbol of wealth. Therefore, owning a car, even a used one from Japan, or even better, a front-wheel drive, represents the fortune of which the prospectors dream. In Mogok, however, there are very few success stories. Dreams come true very rarely. A 3-year concession costs less than $200, but it's an enormous investment in a country in which a local civil servant only earns $150 a year. Working only one pit means gambling on a hypothetical find. Weng Zhaw, 28, an ex-farmer, has made such a wager.
In Mogok, everyone dreams of the rock. But the pits are like the lottery. You've got to hit the right spot. What's more, you can only work for 6 months a year before the monsoon drowns everything. 6 of us work this pit. It's the same every year. We don't lose anything, but we don't earn anything either. That's the difference between the large and the small prospectors.
The small prospectors work in mines like Ho Mang in the center of Mogok. A few months ago, 30 families were still living here. The pits dug between the houses by small prospectors demonstrate the success of this site. And so the authorities threw everyone out without compensation and sold the concession to the highest bidder. The lucky ones were able to find work here. In Mogok, it's considered lucky to be able to dig for rubies, to spend 10 hours a day in the mud for a paltry salary. Those who cannot find work in the mines try to survive by looking for small stones left behind by the workers. They are the sub-proletariat, the canesemas. Throughout Mogok's history, the kings, mine operators, and large landowners have allowed the poorest to remain and gather the crumbs. The military junta decided to perpetuate this ancient privilege. A demagogic measure, perhaps, but one which offers the poorest as well a small part of the dream. The canesemas are all at the bottom rung of the ladder. They dream of climbing one step, and if luck is with them, rising to the top. This was the case of Yoset, a multimillionaire, one of the richest men in Burma.
Everyone's been through the mine. I started when I was 12, after school and on Sundays, but I broke my leg in a mudslide. So I began to deal in small stones as a middleman. At 20 years old, I was already rich, and I've been very lucky since 1988.
Yoset is rich now, very rich. He employs 1,500 workers. and owns mines, factories, and this motel which he enlarged 6 months ago, a motel without tourists who are forbidden to stay in the region. Today, Yosset is going to show his palace to Major Chotwe Win, the military chief who controls the entire ruby business in Mogok. Yosset will show his guest his own personal zoo. The animals in his zoo were captured by Yosset's men in the nearby mountains. These mountains contain hidden paths which lead to Thailand and nearby China. It's said that Yosset knows these paths very well, a fact which could have helped him in the past to develop his early small trade in precious stones. Yosset's next project is to open up the region, with the military's blessing, of course.
Burmese leaders are beginning to open up the country. The idea that Mogok can one day be open and accessible to everyone is a completely new notion. We'll see what happens in a year's time. By then, the motel's renovation will be finished, and I'll be ready. Burmese leaders will gradually change their opinions, and the situation will improve in the next 2 or 3 years. Mogok is the world capital of rubies, but it is closed to the world. Many people want to come here, professionals, specialists in precious gems, and tourists, but it's impossible. This will change, although for now, Mogok is a forbidden city. A room costs $130 a night, but there are no customers because the region is forbidden to foreigners and to unauthorized Burmese. Enlarging the motel will help to improve the region's facilities and give work to the people of this city. There's a lot of unemployment here, and peasants come from the country hoping to find rubies and get rich. I have 1,500 employees. 300 work here. These carpenters, masons, and gardeners have no problem finding work. That's a service I can offer to my city. When the renovation is finished, I'll rehire the men to work in my furniture plant, in my mines, or to construct houses, like the 300 I've already built. This diamond comes from the Mogok mines near Mogok. I bought it uncut 6 or 7 years ago. At that time, it wasn't very expensive. I wear it as a symbol because it comes from Burma. To find a stone like this, prospectors have to be lucky. If you dig a few centimeters from it, you won't find it. Who deserves to find it? Who does it belong to? It's destiny that decides. That's why, like all the Burmese, I believe in destiny. You know, to get where I am, there's no guarantee. It's not like opening a factory in Europe. To succeed here, you need luck.
You have to believe in luck. Kyo Swa, a Burmese whose family comes from Nepal, says this to himself every day. In 4 years, he has invested $60,000, a colossal sum here. After paying for his concession, amortizing his material, and paying his workers, he has just enough left to survive. You have to believe in luck like these children who desert school to realize their part of the dream. They are not employed by the pit bosses. In Burma, it is officially forbidden to pay children under 14 for work. They too come here with the hope of improving their situation. They are perhaps here of their own free will, but certainly not for their pleasure. Sifting through small holes permits them to find tiny stones, which are passed on to professional prospectors. This is what 8-year-old Mong Mong Ai does every day.
My parents didn't send me here. I came on my own. I make about $1 a week. I give it to my mother, and she gives me a little back for pocket money.
Today, finally, the last pits dug by Kyo Swa seem to be yielding something. His luck is changing, but he has to help it along.
I'm superstitious, and I do what I have to keep luck on my side. I get up early in the morning, and I pray to Buddha. I meditate for 20 minutes. Every day I perform my Buddhist duties. That is, I make offerings. If you look for rubies, if you exploit a mine, you have to make offerings to Buddha so that he'll help you.
Lucky prospectors make generous offerings. When they find rubies, lots of them, they share them with Buddha, covering him with gold and precious stones. This one in the Phongdo U Pagoda dates back to the 14th century, according to Kyo Mint, who guards it.
These stones represent offerings made by all of Mogok's prospectors. The pagoda is only open 5 days a year for security reasons. We don't know the precise value of the hundreds of stones covering the pedestal. We estimate them at about 1 billion kshets, about $10 million.
Ever since the military decided to encourage prospecting, joint venture companies have multiplied. Large mines have been opened. The scenario is as follows. An individual buys a 3-year concession at an auction for $6,000 to $50,000, depending on the size. The government contributes the heavy equipment, the trucks, cranes, and always the explosives, of which it has total control. The individual, called the owner in Mogok, runs the mine, recruits, pays, feeds, and houses the workers, and sees that they work. There are dozens of such individuals in Mogok. They have opted to cooperate with the military regime and to profit from its system. A worker's base salary is $1.20 a day, 3 times the salary of a petty civil servant and 25 times the minimum wage. A theoretical salary, though, since the worker never sees it. In most cases, the employer offers him a share of the hypothetical profits of the mine. Thus, all he does is feed and house them. The large majority of workers accept this arrangement. There are too many others to replace them should they refuse. 10% of the money earned from the sale of stones goes back to the workers. 30 years ago, before the experience called the Burma Road to Socialism, the workers' share reached 30%. The work today, however, is no less grueling. During the 5 morning hours, 30 trucks have carried 180 tons of bayon, or ruby gravel. These 180 tons must first be sorted, then washed and sifted in order to search for the rubies. Although the installations seem precarious, they are nevertheless effective. The military control everything, not merely to assure profitability, but to avoid as much as possible stealing and mongko, or smuggling, the Burmese mountaineers' national sport. The serious business is about to begin. The first shovel's full, the first rubies. A sign, perhaps, that it will be a good day. In the gravel, the rubies appear miraculously by the dozen. Throughout the morning, they will find about $25,000 worth of stones. The finest one is estimated at $2,000, the initial price in Mogok. Uncut, it is worth 4 times that in Europe. The gods of precious jewels have given the lion's share to Mogok, not only the most beautiful rubies in the world, but sapphires as well, in great numbers. They are found here at the Toren Tong. Tain Lin, 23, the concession owner's cousin, manages everyday operations. He worries about the smooth running of the mine and the discovery of a new vein containing sapphires. Find anything?
No sapphires yet, but we're getting closer.
Now, how big is the vein?
We haven't dug far enough yet, but it's fairly large.
Well, we haven't lost the vein yet. Keep working. This is where they search for sapphires. In these dynamited, makeshift, dangerous tunnels. Extraction is carried out by hand. After the dynamiting comes the pick, the shovel, the wheelbarrow, the sweat, and the dust. The miners search for the vein from which the sapphires might appear.
This sort of black vein is exactly what we're looking for. It indicates the beginning of a vein that is probably rich in sapphires. We're going to follow it by going around both sides. We have high hopes. Mogok has good terrain. We have 6 concessions here, and 2 are already producing sapphires.
One by one, the stones are extracted from their matrix. Hundreds of them. Uncle Ten Mint, the eldest of a family of 7 children, is very pleased with the results.
The site has already been exploited by small prospectors who dug individual pits. So we're sure we've got a profitable mine. In 6 months or a year, we're going to make a lot of money. The government sold us the concession. They gave us the right to the land, and we share the profits with them. We're partners. The finest stones are reserved for selling abroad and are auctioned off in Rangoon. The small ones are sold in Mogok. We share the take. At present, the government takes 60% and we get 40%, since the mine is very profitable. If it produced less, the percentages would be reversed, so that we could pay our expenses and keep going. It's a fair system. It couldn't be any better. The government does us a favor. We fix the prices together, and sales only take place if we agree. It's a good system.
Not everyone shares this euphoria. In the hangar where 80 workers sleep, draconian rules come down from the Defense Ministry. One rule stipulates that the sick have no right to leave the mine and risk being permanently excluded should they do so. There is no medical insurance in Mogok. When a worker is hurt, becomes sick, or needs medication, the others chip in to pay his expenses. Occasionally, the boss chips in as well. The workday is 10 hours, from 7 to 5:30. The lunch break is 30 minutes. Uncle Ten Mint will interrupt the shooting of this sequence so as not to lose any precious working time. His workers eat in strict silence in front of this camera from the outside world. Like every day, Major Cho Tue Win leaves to inspect his mines. The Major is not very talkative. He agrees to the presence of our camera, but refuses to be interviewed. During our conversation, however, we learn that he's 38, married, with 2 children. He's been in Mogok for 7 months, and his wife, a former professor in Rangoon, misses life in the capital. The Major is a graduate of the Defense Academy Service, the West Point of Burma. He fought against the Karens in 1982 and won a number of medals. He has no training in geology. The Major is not in Mogok to philosophize over the stones. His function is to represent government power, control production, and bring in money. This morning, he is at Pan Lin, inspecting the chrysolite mines. 85 workers, large production, large profits.
This is where the old mines were, but that is virgin land. Nobody prospected here before us. The former owners used to throw their rubble there.
The chrysolites, or peridots, are simply hard stones. They're not worth as much as precious stones, but they are very plentiful in the mines and very profitable. The mine's boss is Min Sui. By pure coincidence, he happens to be the sapphire mine's boss's younger brother. In Mogok, the world of stones is small, very small. The major is concerned about the impending monsoon, which will hinder activity.
What will happen when the rains come?
We can keep working during the monsoon if we pump out the water. That part there has already been exploited. It looks solid, but it could cave in. We can't scale it. It's slippery and too dangerous. In all the mines, rubies, chrysolites, and sapphires are collected by the military and nobody else. Today, the major himself will bring the stones to Mogok. This plastic box will contain $15,000 worth of chrysolites. The strongbox is ridiculous, with its cheap Chinese lock, more symbolic than effective. In Mogok, however, there is no fear of robbery. The nets set up throughout the territory by the junta make it very safe. In spite of the enormous wealth, there are no gangs of thieves willing to take the risk. All the stones arrive here at the major's house. Military terrain, entrance forbidden. Every morning, the major himself supervises the sorting of the precious stones. Today, the major is very happy. An enormous 982-carat sapphire has been found, a very rare discovery. Once cut, the largest of the sapphires will weigh 65 carats. Unlike the mines, nothing is makeshift at the major's house. The equipment is ultra-modern. The electric scale comes from the finest manufacturer in the world. Around the table, the concession owners' representatives participate in the sorting, and they know their business. A 1-carat ruby in Mogok is worth $50,000 to $3,000, depending on the quality. Before being cut, it will be worth 4 times that in Europe. The finest Burmese rubies have no equal anywhere in the world. They are sold only to renowned jewelers. Once set, they can go for as much as $30,000 per carat. Among these red stones, there are a number of spinels. Umong Tso, who has 4 concessions, carefully sorts them.
Sometimes spinels and ruby are very hard to different. We have to test with the microscope. This one is spinel, this one is ruby. Some of the spinels are most likely with rubies. Rubies is honestly is more good than spinels, but the price is so different. Ruby 1 carat maybe, at least very beautiful ruby 1 carat maybe about we say about $10,000. Very beautiful ruby. The most spinel 1 carat is about $2, $3 most.
$2 or $3 a carat is not much, but in Mogok, rubies are counted in the hundreds of pounds. The quantity largely makes up for the quality.
It's a ruby. It's not of the highest quality, but it will nevertheless be put up for sale. Those are what we call mashta. They're opaque rubies. They can be classified as rubies, but they're not worth a great deal. These are still unsorted. We're going to put aside the first-class rubies. They will be shipped to Rangoon, where their price will be established.
Number 4, 1 packet, 46. Number 5, 1 packet, 390. Number 6, 1 packet.
A final control before sealing, and then off to Rangoon.
1700. Number 9, 2 pieces, 114.
The departure is so well guarded that we were not authorized to film it. Since arriving in Mogok, where distractions are rare, the Major has taken to playing golf. The Mogok Golf Club is a remnant of British rule. The Major's partners are of Nepalese origin, descendants of the Gurkhas in the Army of India. They are all dealers in precious stones or mine owners. Their flair for discovering the winning site is legendary. That is what made them rich. According to them, the best vein in Mogok is the golf course. The land belongs to the club members and not to the government. The bargaining has already begun. The club's president hopes to sell it for $2 million. An open mine adjoins the land, and in the drainage water, the Cattelain try their luck. Although they are near the golf course, they are light years away from the Major and his friends. This little girl puts the stone she finds in her mouth. Everyone does so in Mogok. It's the safest spot. Winwin A is 21. She's an accounting student. In the evening, while Major Cho is playing golf, she comes here to buy small stones.
I don't make a lot of money each time, but it's enough to pay for my studies. I don't need my parents to help me. And since I have only a sister at home, their expenses are lower. I sell the stones I buy here in the market. I only buy small ones. I take a 10% profit, and I can earn $1 or $2 a day. That covers all my school expenses.
A few times a week, Winwin and her sister Kala go to the ruby market of Mintada, a market in Mogok where only women come to sell. Only small stones are bought and sold, but the market, open every evening until sunset, is very lively.
Sell it to me for 300 kyats. Can't you lower the price? Too bad. It's too expensive.
The price he offered me was too low, much too low. I'd rather keep the stone.
That's all right.
Ong So Lin has been coming to the market every evening for 21 years.
It works pretty well. I buy low-quality stones, I cut them, and then sell them to jewelers who set them into their jewelry. My profit is small, but it's enough to live on. It's not very steady. It depends on what I buy and sell, but I make 7,000 to 8,000 kyats a month, About 100,000 kyats a year.
5 times the income of a civil servant. Win-Win Ai is not that successful yet. The market is closing, and she is trying to sell her finest stone. Bargaining is hard. In the end, the deal is closed for 800 kyats, about $7. On her level, Win-Win Ai is an excellent bargainer. She's satisfied with her evening's work.
I sold my small rubies for a good price. Then I bought some stones for $4, and I sold them for $5. I bought and I sold. In all, I made $6 today.
Not far from there is Zaiji, the largest general market in Mogok. Mogok is a prosperous town. Money earned from rubies passes from hand to hand. All communities live together. Shan and Lisus, mountain people, Chinese and Indians who have been there for generations. These communities cohabit, but some try to preserve their difference, like this descendant of the Gurkhas.
We, the descendants of the Nepalese who were in the British Army, have formed cultural and religious organizations. We don't want our community to be swallowed up by the others, the Muslims or the Christians, for example. We don't want to mix with them. Our strength is in our independence.
His Burmese name is Cattelain, but this 37-year-old businessman prefers his Nepalese name, Cholanat. He has become rich in the jewel trade, buying almost exclusively from members of his own community who come to his office with their most precious stones. Cholanat has made a clear choice. He claims to be neutral, but he works thanks to the military regime. Money has no politics.
We're successful in business because the government has encouraged agreements with individuals. Right now, it's better for business than it's ever been, since we can work freely. Before, we didn't dare invest, even when the mines were productive. Now, prospecting and trade are encouraged. We can work as we like and according to our means.
Accept my price of 10,000 kyats.
No, I can't buy it at that price. You'll have to lower it.
But take the price of 10,000. You'll never find one like it for that price. No, wait, but my associate won't sell it for less than 10,000.
No, it's too expensive.
Take 10,000. You're going to make money on it.
No, at that price, I don't make any money.
No, my associate won't agree. 10,000 for a sapphire like that? It's a bargain. Those who have concessions and run the mines can buy low-quality stones from the government and sell them directly. These kinds of stones are negotiated every morning at the Padamnya market. Umioshit is a regular customer here. He cuts the stones he buys himself.
It's not a very difficult trade. With experience and a little knowledge of stones, you can easily estimate the profit you're going to make. I buy the stones with Burmese kyats. Then I cut them and sell them in Rangoon for dollars. It's a good system. It encourages people like me who do their own cutting. The stones and the quality jewels are sold 3 times a year at auctions in Rangoon. The sales are open to foreigners, and there are many of them. It's a rising market. Stones which were sold a while ago for about $800 now sell for $1,000 or $1,100.
Umio Chit, the stonecutter, is a trained geologist. His father taught him how to cut rubies on this same wheel in this same house. It's a delicate operation with no margin for error.
When you cut stones yourself to be used in pieces of jewelry, every step is important. You can't afford a mistake when you're cutting a stone worth $1,000. And even if it's beautiful and well cut, if you sell it in Mogok, you've got to give it to a good salesman in a good boutique. You're bound to lose if the seller is incompetent. For example, wood merchants do well because they know their product. If you sell stones or jewelry at auctions in Rangoon, as I do, you can get a good price because there you've got the official government sellers, and they are competent. They sell for a good price. As long as the government authorizes this business, and as long as it works, I'll stick with it. I won't branch out into other sectors.
Umio Chit designs jewelry himself, which he has made by a jeweler. On the local market, this necklace is worth up to 500,000 chiats, or $40,000. The brooches go for about $6,000. But they couldn't be sold in Western countries. The stones are of mediocre quality, the gold used is too thin, the local cutting is poor. Europe only buys high-quality, uncut stones. Umio Chit has to sell locally if he is to make a living. His minimum profit margin is 30%. Sometimes he can make much more. These past 12 months, he made just over $24,000 profit. For a Mogok trader, it's a fortune, and a good deal for the government as well, which imposes a 10% tax on all sales and transactions. A fervent Buddhist, Umio Chit prays and meditates 4 times a day. In spite of his self-assuredness, he too feels that a man cannot succeed without the help of religion. Yoset, the multimillionaire, is a Baptist. He has built a first temple for his workers and is about to begin to build another.
I'm not satisfied with going to meditate in the temples or the monasteries. I pray regularly, especially at night before going to bed. However, you've got to be concrete about what you want. I'm a strong believer in that. I don't discriminate religiously. I owe a lot to the Buddhists in Mogok, to all the Burmese who sold me their best stones. I made high profits and earned a lot of money thanks to them. I also owe a lot to the Muslims of Indian origin. How can I in turn repay all these people of different religions? I can't thank each of them individually, and so I help their religious organizations. I pay them back for what they did for me.
All these mountain people singing here in this temple overlooking the Valley of Rubies are Yoset's employees. Their animist ancestors were converted by British missionaries in the 19th century. They all came to Mogok to seek their fortune. They sing of their hopes to succeed, their wish that God help them out of their present condition. Before God provides for them, this change could come from within the country. The Burmese junta is being contested, and in Rangoon, the followers of Aung San Suu Kyi, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, presently under house arrest, are increasing in number. Political upheavals are probably not imminent, but the present regime is changing, due perhaps to popular and international pressure. The military powers are announcing a timid opening up of the country, and at Mogok, agreements with foreign companies are being discussed. However, as they wait for this hypothetical revolution, the lot of the Kanesimas, like that of all those who are under the yoke of the Rangoon junta, is not about to improve.